you know, hippie happy and, you know, making our hemp clothes and doing all this stuff and not buying cotton and not buying, you know, the edible oils that are soybean and corn and all of this stuff, right? We're replacing so many things. It would
people
cause
become
huge,
self-sufficient. Yeah, the people sitting behind the desk making the millions of dollars. You know,
some people would, but the thing is it would cause the point is it was make a huge shift in just reality as we know it. Really, honestly,
and the economy for the average person would go up. You know, that's how I see it. Like
definitely.
It definitely would. The you know, mortgage crisis would go down. There would be a lot more jobs available.
Yeah.
There would be more people educated on this.
Yeah.
It's, you know, $1 billion industry.
Yeah,
and
it is.
And it would, the only part to it that people still have to remind themselves of, which is eventually going to get to, because, you know, that's something that can't be stopped, because the almighty dollar is the corporations getting involved.
Yeah.
Right now we're at a point where we could do a vote where we can get it at a level where it's just like a vegetable across the board.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
How valuable will that vegetable be, though? That's the question, you know, because, you know, for example, you know, asparagus will cost you more than a head of lettuce, you know, so it's that type of thing. And since it's a medicine, too, you know, it's going to be that part of it.
Well, a lot of
plants
are medicines as well, too, and then they have the medicinal part of it, and then they have the textile or whatever part. I mean, it has its different places, you know. The thing is really, the corporations need to really look at every perspective as well and say, how can we benefit from this? Because that's where their mind is at, is how can we benefit? Everything else is way behind that. The number one question with all corporations, which is where the money's at in our country and in the world, is how can we benefit? They could give a care about everything else, you know? So that's why I want to try to look at it from their perspective and say, how can they benefit from it? And then how could that change things for everyone and everything? Okay, it's okay if there's corporations and they're benefiting. I'm cool with that to a degree.
Exactly.
I'm cool with that until they start poisoning my food, until they start manipulating my media, until they start doing things that mess with my personal space. I want to do what I want to do because I get one lifetime, just like the individuals that make up that corporation. You know, we want to look at how can it serve them, and therefore it'll serve us.
And serving the earth, like for instance, cotton.
Yes,
if they were to replace hemp with cotton, cotton is so bad, and the stuff they have to put into the ground, it poisons the ground. Cotton is like one of the worst things for the earth.
You know what else too, Squatch? They're feeding freaking cotton seeds to the cows and stuff. And the cows that are eating cotton seeds, they have no the beneficial oils and the beneficial ingredients to the food that, because you know I'm all about nutrition. I know a lot about food. So this is just an aside as far as cottonseed goes. Cottonseed oils, food that you make in cottonseed oil is like the worst fats you can eat.
We are using technology today.
Yeah, iPhone. If Ed doesn't call us back, we'll be able to read the news on my phone. He left me a voicemail. Okay. This is from cannabisnews.com, and this story is from Arizona. In November, when we were voting on our Prop 19 about whether or not we were going to legalize marijuana or cannabis across the board, basically with a lot of restrictions, Arizona was voting on whether or not they wanted to do the medical marijuana. Here's a story out of Phoenix from the New York Times. By a narrow margin, Arizona voters have approved medical marijuana for people with chronic or debilitating diseases. This decision makes Arizona the 15th state to have approved a medical marijuana law. California was the first in 1996, and 13 other states and the District of Columbia followed. So Washington, D.C. actually is another place where medical marijuana is legalized. The ballot measure for the issue on the issue was called Prop 203 in Arizona, and it won by 4,341 votes out of more than 1.67 million. So that was 1 and about 2/3 million people voted, and they barely pushed it through. The approval came as something of a surprise. At one point on election day, the measure trailed by about 7,200 votes. The gap gradually narrowed until it edged ahead during counting on Friday. And the final tally was in favor. And so that was really cool. It says here, we believe that we have an opportunity to set an example to the rest of the country on what a good medical marijuana program looks like. They all say that in the beginning, don't they? Andrew Myers says this. He's the campaign manager for the Arizona Medical Marijuana Policy Project. We talked about medical marijuana policy on our last show, hempisode 27. We talked a bit about different medical marijuana policies and different groups that were getting together to make up the rules and that. The Arizona measure will allow patients with diseases including cancer, AIDS, hepatitis C, and any other chronic or debilitating disease that meets guidelines to grow plants or to buy 2.5 ounces of marijuana every 2 weeks. What do you think about the 2.5 ounces every 2 weeks?
Well, again, still for somebody that's doing edible wise.
Yeah, like I said, that 8 ounces that I put in the oil,
Yeah.
and that was 2 bottles of oil. That we'll look at the size of that later. It didn't make very much. However, it'll last a while for. I mean, it's
it depends on the person's.
Yes.
If they're in stage 3 of cancer,
Right.
and suffering, they're going to need a lot more.
That's right.
Than someone else that might just be. Back pain or having muscle spasms or whatever else the situation is.
And right here, they're putting a limit on it. First of all, they're saying chronic and debilitating diseases, so who's going to decide which ones those are? And then they're also putting a limit on the amount straight out the gate. They're saying the top level, probably they're thinking, well, no one could possibly need more than 10 ounces in a month, right? Because 2.5 ounces a week, that would be 10 ounces a month if there's 4 weeks in that month. So they're basically saying there's a limit to how much a person could possibly need. Already it's interesting. And I like how Arizona, they've always been one of the tightest states, don't you think, about it?
Mariposa County is terrible. Or that's where they have the people out in tents.
Wow.
And they make them wear
the offenders?
Pink. Yeah.
The offenders? Oh, I saw that on a show, on a TV show.
That sheriff is from hell.
There's a story also in here in the same website, cannanews.com, or cannabisnews.com, that is from Mariposa County and talks about the one of the authority there saying that they're going to, sure, the law passed and everything, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, heavily. Sure, the law passed and everything, but I'd like to see where they're going to get their cannabis from. So he's basically saying, I'm not going to... sure, you can say you want it. They did that in California too, didn't they? When the law first passed, and they were saying, oh, yeah, everybody can say they want it, but, who's going to be the first one to try to walk down the street and have it, or openly say, okay,
It took 8 months for the first club to be open. Once that law was passed, yeah. In 2015, took 8 months. For the first
nobody wants to be the one to say, okay, it's me. I'll step out. I'll step out over. And
I'll give props to Seeds of Independence. And Seeds of Independence was in Clear Lake Oaks, and they were the 10th medical marijuana licensing, for a business in California.
Wow.
They were number 10. And he opened that, I think, in 97 or something.
And that's like on the border of Trinity, Mendocino, and Lake County. Is that right? Right around in that area.
The Oaks? He was in the Oaks.
Yeah, it backs up into Mendocino County.
Yeah.
Yeah, the woods there. Well, that's really awesome. That's basically the same thing that's happening in Arizona, and I think that's why they were putting the Prop 19 through with us here in California, because they're trying to, like you said, Monsanto and some of the other companies really want to benefit and profit from it and be, and they're putting money into it and all this stuff like you were saying. Once California does it, bam, everybody hops on board. They already said 13 states and D.C. followed right after us in 96. they're just waiting for somebody to do it, and it has to be California because we're the leading edge. You know, we're the trendsetters. That's what we do. That's why we're here. You know, California would have already had an earthquake and dropped off into the ocean if, you know, we're just going to have no change at all, you know. So
we're the movers and the shakers.
They're saying here that that the patients need a recommendation from their doctor, and they have to register with the Department of Health Services. And they can have, their limit is 124 dispensaries in the state, in the entire state, so they have a limit statewide. The backers of Prop 203 argued that thousands of patients faced a terrible choice of suffering with a serious or even terminal illness or going to the criminal market for marijuana. They collected more than 252,000 signatures to put the measure on the ballot, and that was about 100,000 more than required. The measure was opposed by all of Arizona's sheriffs, the prosecutors, the governor, the attorney general, and a bunch of other politicians. So there's this woman named Carolyn Short. She's the chairwoman of Keep Arizona Drug Free, the group that organized opposition to the initiative. She said her group believed that the law would increase crime around dispensary locations. They just have to look at California to
ridiculous.
See. That is so ridiculous. Oh my goodness.
People don't hang out in front of dispensaries. You know, they get their medicine and they leave. People don't hang out in front, you know. She's saying also that it would lead more people to driving while impaired, which could be true, and eventually lead to legalized marijuana for everyone. No, not that. That's what they need.
We might hurt ourselves. We might trip over a joint and fall down. That's awful, isn't it?
It's like
it's a bad thing.
Here's the 3 drawbacks: hungry, happy, sleepy.
Yeah. Yeah, or excessively
and healthy.
Excessively creative is another one. Oh, good Lord. When you have like 20 songs dump into your head at once, it can be a bit much. I mean, insanity, I don't know if I would go so far as to say insanity, but it's borderline. It's that kind of nice insanity.
It makes people so creative. That's why I think the government's so afraid of it. It's not the money of it, or it's how it makes people free thinkers and creative and on their own and independent and,
isn't that amazing?
You know, want to do their own thing. And that's what I think they're really afraid of.
Well, you do. You think for yourself. You start to think about things. You know, this is so interesting to me because I'm so into the spirit realm of things. And I mean, you know this. Most people out there probably don't know. But your pineal gland, which is in the exact center of your head, is a gateway for your soul to go, you know, to the other dimensions, like in dreaming, in death, in meditation, and also creative visualization happens there. And it's along the same lines because a lot of things that we're fed now, foods, sugars, the bad oils, processed foods, all of these things calcify your pineal gland so you can't have that inner vision like you normally would. And it's the same kind of thing. You're not thinking outside of your little, you know, my belly's hungry, or, you know, my bill needs to be paid, or whatever. So anyway, I think you're 100% right, and you're really hitting it. And because it's such a borderline, you know, it's out there kind of a topic, even though it's the most central thing to us as humans, period. That's just my belief.
The government is afraid of spirituality.
Yeah, big time.
You know, even though they have in God we trust on that thing, when it comes to any type of spirituality, especially with in an own person, they are really afraid
where you
of
can
that.
make your own choice, because you can choose how you want to be and how you want to treat other people is really what it comes down to. And in God we trust, well, that's fair, because God is the God of everyone. He's the God of people who want to help other people, and He's the God of people who want to capitalize on other people. It's still the same God. But the thing is if you're naturally oriented into wanting to help other people and do good and be good, there's just naturally, and this is only my belief and my intuitive knowledge, is that there are more people who are just naturally inclined to good, to want to do good, help other people, be good, not rip people off, be kind, than the other. And so the other, their really only tool is to suppress your choice, is to make you so comfortable in this ignorance where we are here, that your belly's hungry and that your bill needs to be paid, that you don't even fathom that there is a choice to be made. But as soon as you have this clarity of mind, which you think if you smoke cannabis that you're going to not have a clarity of mind, which is interesting because
it's the opposite.
It is very interesting, isn't it?
It's a soul searcher for me.
Yeah, it is. It's a meditative drug. I mean, it's been used, if you want to call it a drug, like these people here in Arizona, which is really, really amazing to me. This woman,
because they repealed one, they voted one in back in '95, and they repealed it by '96.
They're so against it but in the government, the politics, and this Carolyn Short, the chairwoman of Keep Arizona Drug Free. You know what, Carolyn? Keep Arizona drug free. Please. That's a great idea. But you have to realize that if you're going to have a glass of wine with dinner at night, then you need to let people who want to have some cannabis at night have that too, because we're big kids, okay? And it's not about being a drugged up Arizona if you have medical or legalized cannabis, period. I
agree. And I'd say Arizona probably has more problem with the Oxycontin prescription.
Yep.
And all the junk being fed in there, and the coke and the heroin.
That's the drugs. That's right. Keep Arizona drug free. While you're at it, help keep California drug free. But don't try to mess with the cannabis laws. But that's butter. Ooh, butter. Oh. No.
Straight butter, baby.
Hold on.
We're going to review some local strains. So those of you out there want to hear about the local strains, or those of you out there that might have grown these local strains, stay tuned. We're going to be reviewing.
Yeah, people are going to be curious about what Lake County's been growing. Our county is really coming up as far as we're really rivaling Mendocino County now as top in the world with our crops and our strains. Pretty exciting stuff.
Definitely.
It really is. I have to leave the house when I'm making those oils and stuff for people because it's potent. It's potent. We got some new folks in office here, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We've got,
yeah, we got Jerry Spittler, City
Council.
And Joey Louise.
Look out, City.
And we'd like to congratulate them both. I'd also like to give a congratulations to Sheriff Rivero.
Yep,
and that has a good ring to it, Sheriff Rivero.
Yeah, it sounds good.
So,
and we're very psyched. We talked to him, actually. We talked to Rivero at, what's the name of that?
Comstock.
JD? Comstock. At Comstock, we cornered him in the parking lot. I'm kidding. He actually stopped us and asked if he could talk to us. I said, oh, heck yeah, you could talk to us. Can we talk about the 420 buzz? And what did he say, Squatch?
He said, 420 buzz.
No. Well, he said it more like you did, less like I did, but still he said it.
And he's very compassionate with medical marijuana use, medical cannabis use, and that is going to be very good for Lake County because before a lot of the people that were being